Hey everyone, welcome back. In the last video I posted, I shared my perspective on why I personally prefer to collect graded 9 cards over Gem Mint 10 cards. And I thought for today's video, I would kind of take a step further and dive a little bit deeper into my collecting philosophy and kind of share how my personal collection stacks up. So this isn't a collection showcase. I'd love to do a video like that in the future. This video will basically just talk about how I approach collecting in the Pokemon card hobby right now. So basically, I will just share my percentage breakdown in terms of how much of my collection is raw and in binder versus how much of my collection is actually graded. And then secondarily to that, we'll look at the graded cards and I will share what kind of qualities deem a card, quote unquote, slab worthy in my opinion. I don't buy just any card in slabs. There are certain criterias for my personal collection in order for me to chase a slab. So I'll highlight those today too. And I'll also show some examples. Again, not a full collection showcase, but I will show examples for each of those categories. So obviously have the binders here, have the slabs here. And this is obviously not the full collection. These are just kind of examples. But on the binder side of things, I'll go ahead and slide these over really quick. I actually showed this binder already on the channel, but for binders, as you could have probably guessed, I focus on complete sets, mainly vintage sets. So this binder here is base, jungle, and fossil. But again, for binders, I am mostly looking at complete sets. Now, these are obviously sets you can pull from packs, like the ones you see here. But then I also do complete sets around promos, like the Koro promos, for example. I do think that flipping through a binder is really an unmatched feeling. When I was a kid, I would carry my binder everywhere I went. So flipping through a binder really just hits the sweet spot for me. And I also do like seeing, the full set together in one place. Do have a little bit of a completionist mindset in that regard. So as I feature more binders on the channel, you'll notice that they're all, complete sets. And again, that is pulled from packs as well as promotional sets as well. And for reference, I would say that raw and binder cards make up about 85 to 90% of my collection currently. Obviously, a full set has a pretty healthy volume of cards, so the number adds up pretty quickly. So I would say about 85 to 90% is currently raw and in binder for me. Now, that brings us to slabs. That would leave the remaining, 10 to 15% of my collection being graded and in slabs. And like I was saying before, I don't just grab any slab randomly. I kind of have my own personal criteria for what I deem, again, quote unquote, slab worthy. When I first started collecting graded cards many, many years ago, the goal was simply just to collect everything, which obviously is, I don't want to say impossible, but it is pretty tough and pretty expensive at this point. So I really had to refine my strategy over the years, and I've kind of honed in on 3 specific pillars in terms of types of cards that I prefer to get in slabs. So I have some examples of those, and I'll kind of go through each. The first one, and I featured these cards actually in my last video as well. The first category, simply put, is just, what I refer to as the big 3 from Kanto. So your original starter trio of Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. Now, I don't necessarily collect every single card for Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. I just collect ones that I really like and ones that there are the full trio in the same, either same release or same art style. So obviously you have the same release here. You have the original base set. Another example where they're all released together could be something like the CD promos from Japan. Also, you could look at things like EX Fire Red Leaf Green starter deck promos as well. Those are also really cool. But there are also releases where all 3, follow the same art style and art direction. but they aren't actually released at the same time. And I am talking about the dark cards, so like not dark type Pokemon, but dark Venusaur, dark Charizard, and dark Blastoise. Obviously, dark Charizard and dark Blastoise were released in the Team Rocket set. Dark Venusaur was released differently. That came as a promotional card in the Trainer magazine. So anything that has to do with Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise in art styles that I really like and that go together as a trio. And the rationale, honestly, for collecting this trio here is just I genuinely really love these three Pokemon. As someone who was a part of the Pokemania back in 1999 and 2000, if you subtract Pikachu from the equation, these were the Pokemon. These were the three like Pokemon that were plastered everywhere. I also really love them from an art perspective and a design perspective. I tend to gravitate toward Pokemon that are based on reptiles or amphibians, and you got all three covered here. So again, just really nostalgic for this trio. Love the designs, use them in the games. So I do collect my favorite arts for these three. And fun fact, Venusaur is actually my favorite of the three. Bulbasaur is my favorite Pokemon of all time. So I tend to be fairly biased towards anything that relates to the Bulbasaur line. But the first category or first pillar of my slab-worthy cards are cards that I really enjoy that feature the original Kanto trio. The second pillar of my, slab-worthy cards are basically cards that you could pull from packs from the vintage era that had, a higher rarity beyond just the holo rare. And there's a couple of different releases that fit into this category. The first one being Neo Shinings. The first introduction of Shining Pokemon, the first time they ever really had that elevated rarity in the booster packs beyond that, standard holo rare. Obviously, if you've seen the full set of these, the Gyarados and the Magikarp have, the standard holofoil pattern, but all of the rest have this matte finish on the Pokemon itself, which I thought was really, really cool. And I am also biased to the Neo era. The Johto games have a very, very special place in my heart. I've dumped the most hours into those. So Gen 2, another one that I'm very, very much obsessed with. So prioritizing the Neo Shinings in my collection, I think they're really, really cool. So again, it's kind of like that elevated rarity that you could pull from booster packs. And another example of that would be the crystal cards. So here we have the Crystal Nidoking from Wind from the Sea. But again, an added level of rarity, an added level of chase in the vintage packs above, that standard rare spot. Personal preference, the Neo Shinings will always be my favorite. I'm very nostalgic for those. But the Japanese crystal cards have this awesome like glitter effect shine that is super, super cool. Like the case has a little bit of lines on it, but the artwork and the finish on the holofoil is absolutely insane. So this second pillar is kind of like those elevated chase cards from booster packs, Neo Shinings, crystals, and I would even consider gold stars to fall into this category as well, although I actually don't have any gold stars in my collection at the moment. I'm kind of prioritizing in the order of Neo Shinings first, then the crystals, and then potentially the gold stars. Now, going into the third category, and this is probably my favorite category of all. This is best summarized as cards that you couldn't just pull from a pack. These cards required you to be somewhere to obtain or to do something to obtain. And the example we'll look at here is the Fan Club Porygon card from 2000. Got the game corner in the background, just really awesome detail. Cool artwork here. So for this one, as you can tell by the labeling, excuse me, again, not something you pulled directly from a pack. You had to, one, be a part of the Pokemon fan, register with the Pokemon Fan Club. And then on top of that, you also had to accrue 700 points and in order to redeem this card. So again, there's that added level of uniqueness to this card. You couldn't just go to the store and magically get one. You had to take certain steps in order to acquire it. Some other examples of this kind of cards that would fit into this category would be, participation cards from tournaments or events, even, prize or trophy cards. Also could be the Misaki promos. So you would have to, send cards into the mail in order to get a certain card back. I think that adds, again, a level of uniqueness to the card that really helps tell the story of Pokemon. You guys know I'm obsessed with the history of Pokemon, especially how the brand was so ingrained and integrated into Japanese culture and Japanese life. It is still today, obviously, but this is obviously from the very, very early days. So something I really, really enjoy and have been really prioritizing more recently. And the last pillar of my collection, probably the smallest pillar that I have, and this is the closest thing I ever do to modern. Again, I mostly collect vintage, but the one section of modern that I do really, really love are the Japanese exclusive Pikachu promos from events, Pokemon centers, anything like that. You'll notice actually, this one's actually a PSA 10. Again, I mostly collect 9s. Been collecting for a long time. I used to collect 10s in the beginning of my collecting days, and I would still sometimes chase 10s if they were somewhat affordable. I think I bought this card for like $120 a few years ago. I know obviously prices have changed a lot in the last couple of years, but again, I do have a couple of 10s, and I think they're all Pikachu promos for the remaining 10s that I have in my collection. I have considered downgrading, unpopular opinion, but downgrading to 9s and kind of using that extra money to expand my collection further, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. I do love these cards. So yeah, this is the fourth pillar of my graded card collection, being those unique Japanese exclusive Pikachu-centered promotional cards. So that is how I am currently approaching collecting. Again, complete sets in binders. I do absolutely love flipping through binders, and transparently, I flip through my binders every day. I just get a lot of joy and nostalgia from flipping through complete sets. And then for the slabs, I'm kind of using these 4 different pillars for my criteria at the moment to kind of keep me focused on my collecting goals. But let me know in the comments what you prefer. Do you prefer raw versus binder, raw versus slabs? And if you do chase slabs, are there any criteria that you use to decide I want this card to be graded or not? The cool thing about personal collections is that they are exactly what that sounds like. They're personal, so everyone approaches them differently. Everyone's collection is unique, which is a really, really fun aspect of the hobby. So let me know what you collect down below. Definitely interested to hear it. Really appreciate you checking out the video. I'll see you all in the next one.